Everybody seems to have an opinion about Paolo Banchero, and they are all wrong. Paolo Banchero is a star today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is November 6th. It will be November 7th, 2025. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com, credentialed member of the Orlando Magic media since the 2012 season. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, everyone has a lot to say about Paolo Banchero, and they're right in some regard, but they're also very, very wrong. Why Paolo Banchero is indeed having a star turn season, plus why the Magic are getting back to basics and need to get back to basics because we got some defensive numbers to go through. We'll get to all that, plus an NBA Cup preview coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. You can make Locked On Magic even bigger part of your day by being one of our Orlando Magic dailies. That means you're listening to us every day, Monday through Friday, sometimes on the weekends. That means we are part of your regular podcast rotation. That means we are your first listen of the day. Truly appreciate all of you for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. The Locked On Podcast Network, it's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. There is always a lot of conversation about Paolo Banchero. It comes with the territory. Former number one pick, now a max with Rose Rule extension player. There is rightfully a lot of attention and a lot of pressure put on Paolo Banchero's shoulders. And let me just clear this out of the way real fast. You don't get this kind of criticism and attention that Paolo Banchero seems to get if people don't think you can meet it. So all the criticisms from the summer to now to whenever, it's because whether those critics want to believe it or not, and I think some of them are just trolling, but whether they want to believe it or not, Paolo Banchero is a player everyone expects to be a super duper star. It's why Magic fans are so protective of him, because we know how good he could be. But it's why there is this tinge of disappointment to the way Paolo Banchero has started his season. The numbers are pretty straightforward. 23.1 points per game is obviously down from last year, which we expected a slight decrease. Still more than what he's averaged during his All-Star season in 2024. He's shooting just 44.6% from the floor, which is the worst since his rookie year. He was 45% in both of his previous two seasons. He's shooting only 24.2% from three. He's shooting a career best 75.3% from the foul line, but it still feels like he's leaving points on the board because he's getting to the line 10.1 times per game. We'll get to some of the other stats here in a minute and why those numbers aren't telling the whole truth quite yet. But there is certainly a narrative that has been established that Paolo Banchero is wildly inefficient, which we debunked last year after the All-Star break. 58.1% true shooting percentage was excellent. We'll debunk it again. Certainly, I will agree with this, and I'll agree to this. Paolo's jumper has not been there. He looks like doesn't have the same kind of lift on his shot, and it's got to get there. At a certain point, it's got to get there. The Magic struggles while Paolo has played exceptionally well over these first 8 games, or at least certainly the last 5 games, and we'll get to those numbers here in a minute. Although Paolo has played very, very well in the last 5 games, it does feel like, the Magic are losing 2 and 3 in their last 5 games. Winning is his responsibility. And ultimately, Paolo can put up the best numbers in the world. He's going to be judged, and I think he wants to be judged on his winning. I will say this. If you read Michael Pina's article on The Ringer, it is misheadlined, I think. There are a lot of fair criticisms in there, especially about his jump shooting and some of his shot decision-making. But I'll say this too. over the last 5 games, let's throw out those first 3 games, because I would agree, was not, and I think I said this in the game recaps, he was not good in those 3 games. Over the last 5 games, Paolo Banchero has taken a leap, has taken a big step forward, and not in the way everyone expected. So let's just go through the numbers and talk about Paolo's surprising star turn. Over the last 5 games, Paolo Banchero is averaging, let me make sure I have my numbers right here. So excuse me, I'm going to make sure I get the right numbers here. Over the last 5 games, Paolo Banchero has become, frankly, a complete player. On this road trip, Paolo Banchero averaged 25.2 points per game. About what we're looking for. Shot 51.9% from the floor. Yes, the 3-pointers were not there, 28.6%. But he got to the line 10.6 times per game for 75.5% from the foul line. His true shooting percentage over his last 5 games is 62.8%. That would be 17th in the league among players with a usage rate of greater than 25%. And guess what? That's better than Stephen Curry. That's better than what Stephen Curry's doing. Banchero has been able to put his free throw shooting into overdrive, his free throw attempts into overdrive. And frankly, he knows he's not making jumpers. He's still taking 4 threes a game. But he's getting downhill to the basket and forcing his way to the paint. On top of this, he's averaging 1.2 blocks per game. He had 6 blocks on that road trip. Averaging 6.6 assists per game. Averaging 9.8 rebounds per game. Adding that rebounding element that was a bit of a weak spot for him in previous years. Unless you think this is just some stats hoarding on a team that went 2-3 on this road trip, okay. 32.7 rebound, 5 assist effort against the Sixers, minus 50. 24.11 rebound, 7 assist effort against the Pistons, minus 10. But did a lot of that work in the first half. But we talked about it then. Much better in the first half. Like really had his fingerprints on the game. Against Charlotte, plus 9 in a 20.9 rebound, 9 assist game. Against Washington, plus 19 in a 28.11 rebound, 4 assist game. They really didn't have to play in the second half. I think he had 25 of those 28 points in the first half. And then against the Atlanta Hawks, even against the Atlanta Hawks, a game where the Magic were essentially dominated all game. And a 22.11 rebound, 8 assist effort. On his worst shooting night of the road trip, 6 for 16, 10 for 12 from the foul line, 6 for 12 on 2-point field goal attempts. Magic was still plus 2 in his minutes. The Magic are better with Paolo Banchero this year. And again, like Franz is still very good. I'm not here to drive a wedge, and I don't buy those arguments. Paolo's been in some pretty bad lineups. The Magic are still figuring out rotations, and I'll be the first to concede and say, like, yes, the Magic need Paolo to score more effectively. They need him to hit jumpers. It keeps everyone honest. It keeps the ball moving. He does need to make quicker decisions, and largely he has, but when this offense stalls, it's because Paolo's doing 25 dribble moves before he gets to a spot, or because the Magic kind of throw him a grenade and he has to do something with it and his jumper's just not there yet. I'm not sitting here saying Paolo is a perfect player, is an all-NBA player through 8 games of the season, should be the MVP. I'm not here saying that. But we all know the quality of score that Paolo Banchero is. And whatever pieces of the puzzle still need to get put together, they are going to get put together. What's different this year is that Paolo has been more active statistically, at least defensively. He has been more active on the glass, helping the Magic get out and run a little bit more. And his assist numbers are way up. If the last 5 games are truly a preview of what we're going to get from Paolo Banchero the rest of the season, he's going to be an all-star. He's going to put up some major games. And the Magic are going to be fine, at least with him and what they're expecting from him. Now, again, like a lot of the issues are one of cohesion, of learning like, okay, where's Desmond at? Trusting his teammates are going to be where they're supposed to be. That's a big issue. Didn't turn the ball over a ton on this road trip, only 2 turnovers per game. That's still a big issue. It's a team-wide issue. I would still argue that, yes, Paolo needs to put his fingerprints on the game in more tangible ways. And by that, I mean, like, frankly, like, if the Magic don't have it, like, yeah, Paolo, go get 30. Go dominate a game like he did against Philadelphia. Philadelphia and Washington are really the only two games where Paolo just put the hammer down and took over games and made sure the Magic were at least in them. But all these other elements that will make the team better, that stuff is new. Paolo being a nightly triple-double threat, that stuff is new. And that stuff is going to make this team better. Right now, Paolo is like a mini Giannis. And look, he can't be Giannis. He's not Giannis. He doesn't have the length, doesn't have the necessarily the tight ball handling. We don't want him to be Giannis. We want him to be Paolo. And that means, yes, he's got to make some jumpers. And if he's going to make mid-range jumpers part of his side, he's got to do that. But I will give him a ton of credit. He's found a way to be effective and found a way to fill up a box score. He's found a way to impact games positively for this team. There's still a lot of bad narratives out there about Paolo Banchero. And yes, the team needs to win. That does ultimately fall on him. But again, no offense, Michael. Your article, I think, was misheadlined. Very fair criticisms. Great article on The Ringer. Go read it. Paolo Banchero has not plateaued. Paolo Banchero is just getting started. Of course, the bigger issue is with the team itself. Magic were back at practice on Thursday. Why they need to get back to basics and get back to their defense. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at DoorDash. The NBA season is heating up, and DoorDash has found the perfect way to keep fans in their bag all season long. Whether you're watching for the highlights, your fantasy team, or just your favorite player, DoorDash makes every game night even better. DoorDash is the official on-demand delivery platform of the NBA, and they are celebrating with something called the Bag Drop. Every time an NBA player scores 50 points in a game, DoorDash drops 50% off your order with Dash Pass the next day, and you're automatically entered for a chance to win the ultimate fan bag. We're talking player-inspired drip, exclusive gear, and stuff you will actually want. It's not just food. They can get everything from snacks and drinks to headphones, ice, even socks, all delivered. So next time someone goes off for 50, use promo code NBA50 the next day to get 50% off on DoorDash with Dash Pass. Plus, your shot at the bag drop. Dash Pass members only 50% off up to $10 the day after a 50-point game with promo code. Terms apply. No purchase necessary. Ends April 13th. Open to U.S. residents 21 or older. Visit DoorDashInYourBag.com for full details. DoorDash in your bag all season long. A lot of people, I mean, we're 8 games into the season. We're seeing a lot of panicking. We're seeing a lot of hand-wringing. And a lot of people are pointing to the offense as the problem. And look, the Magic are 23rd in the league in offensive rating. I'm not going to sit here and pretend the offense isn't a problem. I believe in a lot of things they're trying to do. But frankly, while I think there are still these clunky moments, the offense has actually improved over last year. I don't think any of us can argue with that. The numbers say it. The rankings say it. Their transition numbers say it. The Magic are a better offensive team this year than they were last year. Now, it may be marginal, and we talked a little bit yesterday that it probably needs to be more than marginal. But the offense, to me, is not the problem. The offense is going to be what the offense is going to be. If the Magic want to right the ship, and every player and Jamal Mosley say this clearly, and we're waiting for that to resonate in games. If the Magic want to right the ship, it starts with their defense. Because this whole project doesn't work. Again, Magic should aspire to be better offensively, but we weren't expecting a crazy good offense. We were expecting middle-of-the-road offense. The Magic could be 15th in offensive rating. All of us thought, oh, that's the ticket. They just need to be competent on offense because the defense will take care of everything else. Now, numbers are not sticky yet. Like, teams are not where they're going to be. 8 games in the last season, I did look this up. The Magic were also 3-5. They were on the 4-game losing streak after losing Paolo Banchero. They were 3rd in the league in defensive rating. So, alarm bells shouldn't be ringing, but you're hovering over the button a little bit. The Magic have had this crazy yo-yo defensively this season. They were 6th in the league in defensive rating after their 3-game homestand when they were 1-2. They have the two worst defensive games they've had since March 2022 against the Philadelphia 76ers and Detroit Pistons. That dropped them to 23rd, and everyone did these think pieces saying the Magic are 23rd in defense. What's going on? Well, 2 games against the Charlotte Hornets and Washington Wizards bumped them back up to 11th. After the game against Atlanta, a bad defensive game once again, the Orlando Magic are sitting at 15th in the league in defensive rating. They're about league average in defensive rating. Now, again, Magic go out, have a good outing against the Celtics, have another good outing against the Celtics, have a good outing against the Blazers. They could easily be back into the top 10 and flirting again with the top 5. Stats are not sticky yet. We're not seeing teams kind of settle where they're going to be. And so you have a lot of big outliers. 3 of your 8 games were just objectively bad defensive games, more than 120 points allowed per 100 possessions. But there are warning signs because regardless of what the numbers say, this team does not look like the Magic. This team does not look like the physical, commanding team on defense. They don't look like a confident defensive team. And the numbers back this up completely. The Orlando Magic, again, like I mentioned, are 15th in the league in defensive rating. They're currently 14th, 14th in the league in defensive rating, 114.3 points allowed per 100 possessions. They're scoring about 112. So they're, a little bit underwater there. That is not the standard the Magic have set. Obviously, a big piece of this is the fouling. Fouling is up around the league. The Magic have benefited from this too. They are 2nd in the league in free throw rate offensively. They're 24th in the league defensive free throw rate. They're giving up 31.6% free throw rate. That means essentially 33% would be 1 free throw attempt for every 3 field goal attempts. So the Magic are about 3 out of every 10. The Magic finished last year 2nd in the league in turnovers forcing a 16.8% turnover rate. A big part of what the Magic have done defensively is they force turnovers, they force mistakes, helps make up for their own turnovers and their own mistakes. But the Magic force a lot of turnovers, force a lot of mistakes, and the point of the fast pace is to turn those turnovers into opportunities on the other end. Magic have gotten better at this. They were not good about it against Atlanta, or they were good about it against Atlanta, but too little too late. They're 8th in the league this year at a 16.3% turnover rate. So that's starting to round into 4. Here's the big number. The Magic last year were 3rd in the league, giving up 45.7 points in the paint per game. This year, they are 29th at 55.8 points in the paint per game. Big problem. The Magic are getting beat on the perimeter. They're getting beat at the point of attack. Teams are getting into the paint, dishing out to open three-point shooters like Atlanta did on Tuesday, or dumping down and getting shots near the rim. The Magic's whole defensive system, is based on physicality. They're the more physical team. They hit you first. They don't mind if they foul a lot. I don't think the Magic want to foul as much as they have been, giving up 30 free throws per game. The Magic don't care if they're giving up 20, 25. The Magic want you to feel them. So they'll foul. They were a high foul team last year too. So that's not the crazy part. But what's happening now is teams are able to penetrate their defense. They're able to get into the paint. They're able to force this team into rotations, force them to collapse. And that's when this team has gotten itself in trouble. Now, some of it too is, yes, they're getting out in transition. So I looked this number up from Synergy, from our friends over at Synergy. The Magic's half-court defense. I did not. I had this number and I took it out of my article. The Magic last year were, I believe, 4th in the league in half-court defense, according to our friends at Synergy Sports. About point, it's all under a point per possession still, but still. This year they're down to 18th. So it's a problem. This isn't some imaginary thing. This isn't, oh, the numbers aren't true yet. No. Defense has been a real problem. Now, everybody on the team, to a man, will say, and everyone agrees with this, defense is this team's identity. It is still something that is assumed around the league that the Magic are going to be a good defensive team. And it's still really early. Again, have 3 really nice games at home against Boston and Portland, do a good job against the Knicks, You come back home, you get the Nets. That's probably easy money. You have an opportunity to build some defensive credentials and build some defensive confidence. And at the end of the day, the Magic's best offense comes in transition, which only comes when they get stops and get out and get turnovers. The fact of the matter is the numbers back this up as much as anything else. The offense can be what it is. And again, the offense is better this year for as ugly as it's looked. It's better this year than it was last year. The defense hasn't pulled its weight. And look, the offense is partly to blame. High turnovers, higher pace, fouling. Certainly the offense is part of the problem. I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But last year, the Magic never let their bad offense affect their defense. Last year, the Magic never, or very, very rarely, I won't say never, very, very rarely let bad shots or missed shots change their defensive effort. And what we've seen this year, and the biggest thing I'm honestly concerned about, is that the team has let frustration with their shot win. They've let frustration over not getting foul calls win. They are not, again, as disconnected as they've been on offense. There are moments where they're disconnected on defense. Desmond Bane admitted he's still getting a little bit lost in defensive rotations. It's still something he's learning. It's not quite instinct yet. It's something that should improve over time. And he's a big piece of this. Jalen Suggs has been in and out of the lineup. He's been good defensively for the most part. Didn't have a great defensive game, I thought, on Tuesday. There's just these little pieces that need to come together. And so if the Magic, as I told us at practice on Thursday, they focused on their defensive principles. They focused on redefining roles, on making sure everyone knows what they're supposed to do, focused on their offensive spacing, all things that will help decrease these numbers and make these numbers look better and get wins. But at the end of the day, the Magic just got to do it. If they're a defensive team, they need to show it to us every single night. Defense is an attitude and a mindset as much as it is anything tactical or strategic. We know this defense works. We know this team should be one of the best defensive teams in the league. They got to play like it. It's back to basics for this team. Friday is here. Big game at the Kia Center. Or is it? Why the NBA Cup feels different this year. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is also brought to you by our friends over at PrizePicks. You and I make decisions every day, but on PrizePicks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement of this sports season, whether you're following the NFL, NBA, or both. There is no better time to jump in on the action. If you haven't tried it yet, PrizePicks is the simplest way to play. Just pick more or less on at least 2 player stats, and if you get them right, you win. It takes less than 60 seconds to make your lineup, and you can play anywhere PrizePicks operates, including California, Texas, and Georgia. With PrizePicks, you can include both football Sundays and NBA tip-offs in your groupings. So you can put together a group looking at Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You can put together a group involving the Orlando Magic. You can pick your favorite players and see how the predictions play out. Plus, the new Stacks feature is a game changer. You can now pick more on Steph's points, threes, and assists in the same lineup. You used to not be able to do that. Plus, if one of your players leaves early with an injury, the injury reboot saves your lineup from a loss. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNBA for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. It is here. If you know me, if you listen to me the last 2 years, I love the NBA Cup. I think the NBA Cup is great. You could sell me on the courts. I could go give or take the courts. We get to see the new statement edition jerseys, the black warm up inspired jerseys. I love the NBA Cup. I am a big believer that if you get the most competitive people on the planet, and NBA players are certainly among the most competitive people on the planet, give them a trophy to play for, even if it is contrived and not completely bought into. Give them something to play for. They will play hard for it. They will go for it. And I've said this, if you look at some of the trophies around the world, it's certainly inspired by soccer. I'm a soccer fan, so I get this stuff. Some teams don't care. Like, that's fine. Some teams care more about their league season than the cup games. That's fine. The teams that care. And for the last 2 years, the Orlando Magic cared. It was important to do well in the NBA Cup. In 2024, the Magic weren't quite sure what kind of team they were going to be. They didn't know if they were going to be a playoff team or not. And the NBA Cup and winning the last 3 games in their group play and having a chance to advance gave them the confidence they needed to win 47 games that year and get to the 5 seed. You cannot tell me those games, especially that win on Black Friday against the Boston Celtics at home, weren't super important to that young team and gave them a jolt of confidence and energy to get them to the end of the season. Similarly, last year, winning the NBA Cup mattered. They felt like they left something on the table as a young team that didn't quite understand the importance of meaningful basketball. They came out and put the hammer down on the Raptors, the Sixers, and I believe the Nets as well. They put the hammer down in the first 3 games of their group play before they admittedly took a bad loss to the Knicks and nearly got eliminated with a 30-point cushion. But they went to Milwaukee and gave themselves a chance to win the cup, gave themselves a chance to advance to the semifinals, advance to Vegas. They wanted it. It was important. It was a sign of how competitive this team could be, especially without Paolo Banchero at the time. And it was a sign that, yes, the Magic are here. They are a serious player that you need to reckon with. So here we are, NBA Cup version 3. Group play begins Friday at the Kia Center against the Boston Celtics. Celtics have already played one of their group cup games. And yet, it's hard to get excited about it. And again, maybe you were never excited about it. And if you're not, more power to you. I like this stuff. I enjoy this stuff. And if the Magic win Friday, and I think winning Friday is important for a number of reasons. Magic win Friday. Magic take care of their business next Friday against the Nets in their second NBA Cup game. And we head to that Thanksgiving road trip with both the Sixers and Pistons on the schedule and a chance to advance. You better bet I'm going to say it's a big deal that they need to advance. We'll probably talk to Q. We'll probably talk to our friends at Locked On Sixers. But obviously, it's not important right now. We've got bigger fish to fry. Last year, or the last 2 years when the NBA Cup came around, the Magic were in a good place. They were playing well. You could see the team's identity coming together. It felt like a proving ground because the Magic had already gotten off on the right foot. They'd gotten off to a strong start. And maybe this is the ultimate problem with the NBA Cup is that, yes, the playoffs are more important. And maybe the Magic have just graduated from needing the NBA Cup to prove anything. It's not important. Like, win the cup, yes, because trophies are great. I love trophies. The Magic have never won a league-wide trophy as a team. Go win one. That's fine. We'll all get excited if they win in Vegas. But there are obviously so much bigger fish to fry. I believed before the season that the Magic could be a team that's dangerous in the NBA Cup because I think we all thought that this team coming together would be so much more seamless, would be so much easier than it has been. It wouldn't shock me if the Magic believed that too. I will take Desmond Bane at his word. Desmond Bane, I asked Desmond Bane, what's the process and communication been like as he tries to integrate himself and be himself and be the player that we know he can be. And he told an anecdote that, I talked to Jeff before the season. I actually talked to Jeff earlier today. And we kind of noted to each other that this might take a little longer than we thought, or it's going to, there are going to be growing pains as this team tries to play this new style, integrates a key new player, figures out how to use them. Certainly, we hope that we can look back in March and laugh at all of these podcasts and all of these shows that I've done. Please, freezing cold take me. I want to be freezing cold taked on some of the things that we've talked about here. I think that, we're living in the moment. We can't predict the future. Please freezing cold take me. Please be wrong about so many things that I've talked about over the last 2 weeks. But the last 2 years, the Magic knew who they were, knew how to play, knew their formula to win, and executed it. Right now at 3-5, entering these critical games, entering these NBA Cup games, the Magic are still trying to figure it out. And so it feels like there are bigger things to deal with. Like winning on Friday is important. Winning 2 of the next 3, even more important. So if you lose Friday, win Sunday, win Monday, and everything's a little bit more comfortable. I won't say it's perfect, but it's a little bit more comfortable. It's not in the cup is important. I think it's valuable. I think it's still a good thing. The Magic would certainly gain a lot of confidence by playing in these meaningful basketball games and winning in these meaningful basketball games. It would be a sigh of relief for everybody if the Magic won these games. But that's not the goal right now. Yes, they're looking for the gold trophy at the end of the season, not the one in December. But right now, the goal is to get yourself right. So the Magic have the Celtics twice here in the next 2 games. They'll play Boston on Friday. They'll play Boston on Sunday. And this is a really interesting opponent for the Magic to go up against, not just for the NBA Cup purposes, but just in general. It's a really interesting opponent. Boston is not the same record they won the other night, but they're 4-5 on the season. So they are struggling just as much as the Magic are to kind of find themselves early in the season. But this team still knows its identity. They're 12th in the league in offensive rating at 117, same as the Hornets. Magic did a good job defensively against the Hornets. 117 offensive rating. They got a 112.7 defensive rating. So they're 12th in both categories. Again, slightly above average. They're really good at forcing turnovers. That's been the big thing for them, and that's the big concern, I would say. The Celtics are 3rd in the league in opponent turnover rate, 17.6%. I will note as well, Portland is 1st. So the next 3 games are big tests of the Magic's ability to not turn the ball over. Magic will not win these next 3 games if they turn the ball over. The big weakness for Boston, the biggest weakness for Boston is they are terrible on the offensive glass. They're terrible, not on the offensive glass, terrible on the defensive glass. The Boston Celtics give up a 35.9% opponent offensive rebound rate. Now, one of the reasons why the Magic's offense might be struggling is they're crashing the offensive glass a lot more. Orlando is 8th in the league with a 33.4% offensive rebound rate. So the Magic are doing a really good job on the glass for the most part. Again, their opponent offensive rebound rate, I'll note this as well. Magic's opponent offensive rebound rate is sitting at 17. So they're giving up their share of offensive rebounds too. So there's work to do. But the Magic are good at the 2 things the Celtics are kind of weak at. And that's offensive rebounds. If the Magic get a lot of offensive rebounds, they should be the more powerful, more physical team in that sense. The other thing Boston is not good at is getting to the foul line. The Celtics are last in the league with a 19.6% free throw rate. That means they're getting to the line less than 1 free throw attempt for every 5 field goal attempts. The Magic, not great at fouling right now. The Magic are 24th in the league with an opponent free throw rate of 31.6. Celtics are worse. Celtics at 34.4%. Now, Boston has been wildly up and down. So the big factor in this game is going to be turnovers. If the Magic don't turn the ball over, Celtics offense comes down to their 3-point shooting, which still scares everybody, but they're not as scary as they were last year. And so if the Magic are able to kind of get down to their defensive principles, do what they did in the playoff series, They should win these games. The Magic should win these games. Celtics can get hot. The Celtics are a good defensive team, so Orlando is going to have to. This isn't like some pushover. This isn't playing Washington, who Boston just demolished as well. This isn't playing Washington. No offense to our friends with the Wizards. This team's going to give a little resistance. But it's also the perfect opponent to get the Magic right. So get an NBA Cup win. That's great. Get right against a team that is built in many ways to slow you down, to frustrate you. But do the things you're good at, find your identity, and the Magic can get themselves back on track this weekend. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. You can, of course, find me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD and on Blue Sky at PhilipRR. You can subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all the places you download podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. You can find us as well on YouTube. Just search for Locked On Magic. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. You can find us there on Twitter at OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, be sure to check out my Patreon page, Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. Speaking of turnovers, up on the site now, and I'll pin it to the top overnight. Up on the site now, I did a video breaking down some of the Magic's decision-making and their turnovers. Why I still think a lot of the problem is cohesion and kind of getting used to playing each other. But where the Magic need to improve with their passing, that is now up on my Patreon page, patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done making Locked On Magic your first listen of the day, go check out the Locked On Fantasy Basketball Podcast. Josh Lloyd hosts the #1 fantasy basketball podcast, giving you daily tips and helping you win your league, all while making you a smarter NBA fan. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts, all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. That's going to do it for me today, though. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. We will be back tomorrow to talk about the Orlando Magic's game against the Boston Celtics, break it down, the NBA Cup debut. That episode will be coming a little bit later than I normally do my post-game episodes. I unfortunately will not be at the Magic game, but I will be watching. I will get to an episode right when I get home from I'm covering the UCF game for the AP. I'll get to it right when I get home from the bounce house. Hopefully the Knights take care of their business against Houston as well. But we'll have a new episode breaking down this game for you Friday night, Saturday morning. So get ready for that. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic.